Hey, party people, welcome to the Dental Efficiency Playbook. I'm Gabe Hoffman, known as the Dental Efficiency Guy, and I have a treat for you tonight. We have Callie Ward, Dash Dental Consulting. Callie, welcome to the Dental Efficiency Playbook.
Hi, Gabe. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So for just so that you know, because I don't believe you haven't been a guest on the Dental Efficiency Playbook in the past. The purpose, we set out to give insight, tips, tricks, and the occasional cheat code to level up the dental game on the Dental Efficiency Playbook. And I know the title of this session tonight is Are You Living Your Dash? Right? Your company is Dash Dental Consulting. So tell us about your background. How did you where did you start in dentistry? How did you come about? What is living your dash? What is Dash Dental Consulting? So, if you can answer those questions, it'll help. I think it'll be an absolutely great episode. I know what it is, but just so all our listeners know.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. If I go back to the beginning of dentistry for me, it was 1992. I was 22 years old and I kind of fell into dentistry. I have done every job up front. I started taking paper charts and putting them into the computer to process the revenue cycle through the software. I've done every job up front. I've managed single locations and multi locations, and I have been a consultant for the last 10 years. So I love dentistry. I love the business. I love how we change people's lives. But I did notice through the years that, if we think of your dash, you're born on one day and you die another day, and the dash is in between. And so I think we spend so much of our life at jobs and we're not really maximizing our happiness quotient. And so I'm really committed to helping my doctors and teams really clarify their goals, talk about their vision, and find a way that they're filling their cup every day so that they feel great at the end of the day and excited to come back to work for the next day. When we do that, our ripple goes out. We go home with energy and positivity. We give greatness to our family. They go out, give greatness to the community, and it just continues. So I'm really passionate about helping people feel great.
Wow, so I love that. I was thinking like I knew Dash was energy and was like joy and enlightenment, but I didn't realize that it was actually your life and getting the most out of your life. So that's further detail for me, further explanation that absolutely love, Callie. But with that said, in my business, the dental efficiency guy, we have Joy ROI. So we have when we're implementing systems, processes, or coaching and developing, helping people achieve their goals, it's not just about the results. It's about the culture and building up the culture sustainably so that people have a passion for what they're doing again, right? You mentioned it, the abundance, the higher energy, the excitement, the joy for what they're doing, not just in patient care, but with each other and in the process, right?
Right.
And if I can leave an office or leave a team where there's an elevation of that, right? True joy ROI, that can be contagious, right? Just as you know, and there's nothing greater. It doesn't matter. Results are up and down. Results, even sustained results, you can still get burnout or you can still have turnover because people don't have the same level, like they're not engaged and focused in their work, even though they're driving results. If you have, in your case, the dash every day or the joy ROI, right? That you truly have a passion, you have a fire, you have an energy to work together and to serve people.
Right. I
That
love the data. So the data is so important and I geek out on the KPIs and I love
me too.
I love playing with people who are willing to do something differently to see a different result. but we have to take the time to align as a team to make sure that we're living our core values, that we all have similar core values, that we've communicated what the vision for the growth is. How much is that growth? What's the impact going to be of it? Are we all on the same page? Do we all agree that that's the direction we want to head? And then how do we agree as a team to show up? What does on time look like? What does completed task mean? Right? Like, so we talk through those communication pieces that a lot of times we just assume everybody is going to think the same way that we do, but not necessarily. So now we've got this agreed upon, movement that we're going on. And what I love to do is to help with the positivity in the sense of I don't want to focus on where we're weak, where we're not hitting those numbers. I want to
Uh,
focus on what could we do differently to hit those targets that we're looking for, and what can we celebrate of what we're already doing great. So I think that that's
I love that.
really important to celebrate the success every day. So at the huddle, we come in and we look at yesterday and who deserves a shout out? What was great about yesterday? Who did their job and who did it well?
Oh,
Those things, that acknowledgement piece is just so forgotten. And when we're
and so
trying,
massive.
yeah, and we're trying to hit these massive changes. We're trying to find new avenues, but we have to support the team in that growth. It can't just be we want more money. Like that's I can't get behind that because I may not necessarily get any of that money, right? Like if I'm just a team member and maybe we don't bonus, that's a hard ask. And so I really want to help the alignment and the excitement of moving forward. But I want the team members to tell me what they think they could do differently to hit that result, because guess what, they already know the answer, and it's going to stick way more if they vocalize what they think they could do differently than if I told them how to do it.
Wow, that's really good. And you mentioned the huddles. It's something that I've talked about in multiple. Just like I throw it in as frequently in episodes as I can because whether it's team meetings, which a huddle is a daily team meeting, right? But you're engaging people, you're challenging your team to not only learn more about the business, but then pay attention. They have to give someone else credit, celebrate someone else on the team. And if you go
Right.
around to each member of the team, it's not just the doctor, it's not just the office manager or the leadership that's doing it, but everybody on the team takes a turn at leading that huddle. Not only are they learning the metrics, but they're also like they're giving each other a shout out, like they're having to celebrate someone else, but then they're also looking at what can we possibly do better, right? What's the opportunity that we can enable today or this week? And then they're also having to look like days ahead and understand how we prepare ahead of time as opposed to last minute, right? So like just different multiple layers of
Right.
leadership development and further learning and just building culture, empowered accountability through those meetings. And so what I find is when people are great at huddle, their team meetings or their team engagements tend to be so much better as well because
Right.
people are on the same page and they're engaged, like there's a higher level engagement top to bottom.
Well, and it gives everybody a voice. And so I think if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for people to be successful, they have to feel safe. And so we're intentionally creating a safe environment. We're giving them that space. And morning huddles should be quick. We should have, we shouldn't be solving the big problems. We should be looking at what was great about yesterday. Who can we shout out? Where do we have opportunities? So maybe we messed up. What can we learn from that so we don't do that again? Of course, we're future paced. We're looking, are we prepared for the next day? But if we have any issue that comes up that is a little bit more to unpack, I love to have a parking lot, which is a piece of paper there that's for our next team meeting. And we put this topic on the parking lot of, hey, we're going to talk about this at the next team meeting. And then I love having agendas posted a month before we have the team meeting, if we have them once a month, what the topics are, about how much time we're going to spend on those topics, and then give the opportunity for anybody on the team to address any concerns. So my name's Susie. I want to talk about the handoffs from back to front. I'm going to need 10 minutes. So when the team feels like they have an avenue and a rightful place to work through issues, and anytime you're changing things, there's going to be issues, they feel
Yeah.
empowered and safe, right? But if we don't ever have team meetings, and I almost laugh at doctors that want to bring in a coach or want to bring you in and they want to see all this growth, but they don't want to dedicate any time to the team to work on that. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you expect us to do that? So when we have regular huddles, we have regular team meetings, we have multiple opportunities to work together as a team in a different environment to share different voices and different perspectives so that we're hearing everybody on the team, because case acceptance is a team sport. This is not just the doctor's job by presenting it, although they play a huge role in it. It's not just the front desk. It's like, wait a second.
Every single touch point, right? Everybody plays a role.
Right. And so we have those really intentional conversations and learning. And guess what? We all, as we're celebrating seeing somebody else try something differently, it emboldens us. It gives us empowerment to move forward and try something. And that's where we see the growth. And then we get excited because somebody shouted us out for doing, it's uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. So it really is an intentional growth piece. And I love doctors who are willing to lead the way and say, hey, I'm trying this differently, it's really awkward, I need your help as my team, walk me through, how did I do? Now they're modeling that for their team, and their team is more likely to move forward with doing something different.
100%. Leadership, when you look at virtually every analysis of culture development and people engagement as well as retention, leadership is at the core of it's the starting point, right?
Right.
Um, so if the leadership isn't driving the bus, isn't vocal, it doesn't have expectations, but also isn't putting that energy forward, right? They're not leading the way on it and excited about it. Can you expect your team to be? You can delegate things, but if you're going to delegate things, you have to be engaged in those same things. That's just a nature of, right? You can't delegate and just forget about it, never inspect it.
Right.
You
Right.
inspect what you expect. And so at the end of the day, it's like I try to gamify that process with teams, like something that's going to further engage, incentivize. And I love little rewards when people go above and beyond. I'm gonna bring something up real quick because I was at a soccer game this past weekend, Callie, and I don't know if you've noticed, I have a little band. It's getting a little better, but across my forehead. So for anybody that's watching this that realizes that I look pretty ridiculous with a band across, yep, I do. So I had a hat on backwards, and sunglasses on, and so for whatever reason, I guess the hat was here. I got burnt. I don't know. I was like 69 degrees, but the sun was out. I really wasn't expecting to get burnt. So, but it happened. And this is like, what is today? Wednesday. So that was Saturday, and I still have a little bit of a band across my forehead. So anyway, you can laugh at me, but I just wanted to throw that in there. But back to operations. So what do you see, Callie, now in the offices that you work with? Is there a pattern to the challenges that you see? I know in my world, it seems like the offices that have the greatest challenges are also the biggest challenge in implementing new things because there's a lack of organization, or to your point, the hierarchy, right?
Well,
It, and when I say hierarchy, we're not talking about like king and queen and accountability with an iron fist. We're talking about a team environment where everybody respects everybody, but there's clear accountability and leadership from the top down.
right.
And when everybody is holding each other accountable, it's not a defensive or difficult situation when it's time to sit down and address results, because we're always giving positive and always giving opportunistic feedback.
Right. Well, opportunistic feedback is a mistake that we're looking at as an opportunity. So we're not ever going to attack the person. We're going to discuss the behavior, and that pulls it a little bit back, right? And it makes it more safe. But I think before that, I really encourage my doctors and office managers, the leadership, to connect with their team on a human level. And this doesn't have to be a long drawn out process, but I've seen teams and doctors that have worked together for 20 years, and we do this exercise and they learned something really deep about their team members. So what I do is I have them rank these words in order of importance: respect, growth, challenges, money, and purpose. So when we know what their number one and their number
Okay.
two is, we know what is important to them. And when we ask them, okay, so you're a dental assistant and purpose is really important to you, how does that get filled with your job every day? Because I want team to feel great at the end of the day, despite that we're trying to change things, that we're trying to move forward. So I had this one little gal, and she was mortified that we didn't recycle. And I'm like, what do you need? So she needed some bins. We got those. We set some ground rules on it. And that gal, on the days that she recycled, was literally saving the world. Like, she was on cloud nine, so happy. It wasn't money. It wasn't something that I had to give her. It gave her purpose. And then I asked the team members, it can't just be, what am I as the leader or the doctor going to give you? They have to have ownership in it. So if you're a dental assistant
So
and
good.
purpose is important to you, how do you do that every day? What do you look for with the patients that you see? How can you make that an impact in feeling great at the end of the day? So it's a little bit of knowledge so that I know what's important to them, but it's also ownership on their part of making things happen. So we get out of the victim mentality and we get into the team mentality. And we work on that. We talk about, hey, if we have a conflict, how do we handle that in our office? We set up the parameters of what those steps are to go through. And when we have, you had mentioned something else, when we have clear expectations. So do they have job descriptions? Do they have a clear idea of what they're supposed to do? 9 times
Systems,
out of 10,
process, training, all the
right?
things that make, yeah,
Right?
accountability easy, right?
Nine,
Expectations
nine
easy.
times 9 times out of 10, we hire somebody because they have a great personality, and we assume that they know how to do their job because they did that job somewhere else. But then we're upset because they didn't do it our way. But where's the onboarding? Where did we ever do that? And I think that people think that creating standard operating procedures is like this massive undertaking. If we do it as a team, it really isn't. Like, give everybody a month and say, I want you to track every day, what are the tasks that you do? Just write it down, keep a notebook in your pocket, like fill it out. What do you do every day? What do you do once a week? What do you do monthly? So everybody has 1 month to create that. They turn it in. Then I want them to write, how do you do it? So when I was a manager, I had them write, where's your password? Where do you turn the computer on? Like, as
Oh,
much
step
for
by step.
dummy as possible, because now I get to analyze their system. Is it lacking? Is it over? Are they overworking the job? Are they underworking it? So now we've got an agreed upon course of action. We can work through what are those standard operating procedures. And now we're clear. This is what the expectation is. Then if they're not coming through and doing it, we have a great opportunity for a healthy conversation of, gosh, help me understand, what's your thought process? You're doing it this way. Why is that different than what we had agreed upon? So it helps accountability, but it also helps recognize team members who are doing way more than anybody in the office ever knew. Right.
Well,
And now we've got
it's such a
training
good
events.
point, Callie, because like that's what if you're consistently giving feedback, if you it's non-threatening when you are giving, like, you're sitting down with people to review expectations or go through things, good or bad, right?
Right.
Because everybody's going to have good and bad throughout, their career in a practice or in any business. They're going to have great months, they're going to have challenging months, they're going to have, ebbs and flows, right? It's just the nature of the beast. If we only wait until there's negative results, or we're only highlighting the positive, and then we there's status quo for like 3 months and we don't say anything, and then if it hits the shan, bottom drops out, and we're on fire, right?
Right.
What does that say about like the culture? There's not going to be a great uh, everyone is not going to be engaged in holding themselves accountable
Right.
if it's that environment, because it becomes threatening, and people get
Right.
defensive, or it's just not, you're not flexing those muscles on a regular basis, right? We're not all on the same page as far as accountability. And
Yeah.
so like I'm all for when people are empowering their teams to hold each other accountable and hold themselves accountable. When
Right.
expectations are regular, when they're regularly set, when they're in place, if you can create a culture where that happens, then people know when they, like, they're going to come to you when when something's not right,
Right.
because they
Well,
want help.
if you think the next layer of that too, if we're really clear with expectations, we now know how to hold people accountable. Growth is another word that I had in there, and I think it's really important that we talk about growth. So, what's dental's history? It is I've worked here for 5 years, so I deserve a raise. I call bull on that. I love to see growth conferences. So we set up a growth conference at the beginning of the year. We review and you self score, and then the office score, between the doctor and the office manager. So you come in with those two scores and we talk through, how often do you show up on time? Do you have any, like, you rank yourself in these different areas. And then we set some growth goals. So maybe it's a
Sure.
hygienist, or maybe it's an assistant who needs to learn how to make a temporary or do some other procedure that they don't do. So we set up, that's my goal for the next 6 months, is I'm going to work on that skill set, because that's going to bring to the practice, because they're getting better at their job. But they're also, at the end of the 6 months, we come back and reevaluate it. And if they kicked it out of the park and they did it, then they get a raise. And it's behavior based, not just time based. And I think I love people to feel important and part of the team. And I think we have to get a handle on, I deserve a raise because other people in the industry are making X. Like, we this is how we're going to do it in this office, and this is what our goals, and this is what our focus is. And if we hit these targets, what's the reward for the team? So where's the skin in the game for the team? Are they getting grab bag? Are they getting bonuses? Are we going on fun educational trips? Like, there's so many ways to do it. Of course, we've got to make sure the practice is profitable first, and the team doesn't get that. They don't know the doc's got 500 grand in education loans. They don't know how much money it costs them to buy the practice. They don't know how much it costs for the CBT machine. Like, they don't know any of that. But I don't expect doctors to give them a line item detail, but they should give them some ballparks of, listen, we have to collect this amount to be
Yeah,
able to pay the bills, to make this business run. And if we hit 20% over that, I'm going to give you some of that profit. It,
100%. I'm with you. So, if I hear from time to time where doctors will be like, "Hey, what can I incentivize them on?" Like, can you incentivize them on recall? Can you incentivize them on reviews for your practice, reappointment? Like, those three things right there all have an impact on filling your schedule and getting more patients in the door. Like, what
absolutely.
if you can't find, day-to-day opportunities in the like around the chair or in the chair, then pick one of the three or all three and put a goal around those on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, right?
Right. And bring
Um,
the team in on that conversation. What would be a cool bonus for you? What would you be excited about? I had a team who they had pre-COVID had gone on big trips like every other year. So they would go to Cancun or they'd go to California. They do these big trips. Well, post COVID, every doctor took a hit and the practice was not at the capacity to be able to afford that, but they wanted it. And we're like, what could you do? How could you, as a team, earn that money to pay for it? And they came up with two amazing things. They donated their time, they came in extra days, they marketed whitening and Invisalign, and they ran social media promotions. They scheduled it and they got it filled, and they were able to buy that trip to Cancun. When your team is excited, when they are part of the process, I'm here to tell you they will take out all stops. They will do anything.
We it's well documented when you're able to take your team on, say, a cruise or to a tropical, like to a conference where it's in a great location. You give them some CEs, right? So they're educating, but they're also having a great time together and team building. Like even those situations, they're still taking a trip. Um, Doing that, yes, there's a tangible expense. It can be costly, but if you're able to do it, the ripples, the reward in the practice, like there is a specific period of time that everyone is more productive, everyone is more engaged, everyone is more the culture is boosted, everyone is elevated. And
Right,
and so when you see that, it's not that you have to do that on that level. You incentivize, right? You say, hey, this is what we're going to do. You have that trip in the future. And
right,
but I love the little, like the above and beyond, when there's a fantastic review and someone gets a call out for just like from a patient that they, absolutely loved how they were treated. Maybe they get like a little Starbucks card or something just to day to day, or they get, an extra whatever time at lunch. I don't know, whatever that is, like there's
right.
something you're giving them that makes
There's
them
a great
feel
thing.
good about that day, about what they did.
You can incentivize your team in so many ways that aren't trips. Like that, hear me loud, that you can do things on a budget really easily. One, sharing that celebration where you acknowledge that team member. Just that acknowledgement is huge. I like having my teams fill out a sheet that says, this is my favorite candy, my favorite drink, my favorite flower, my favorite restaurant, my favorite place. Like, those are really easy things. And maybe your team killed it and you can't afford even to go buy them coffees, but you could afford to go buy three of them randomly, the favorite candy bar, or you bring in everybody's favorite candy bar. It doesn't cost much, but that little effort, I'm seen, I'm heard, I'm acknowledged, that creates loyalty. And when you think of challenges. So you always see on the office manager forums, gosh, my team member took vacation already and she wants to take it again. And she's a new hygienist. And yet who gets seniority to get that time frame? My existing hygienist or the new one? And they're at this quandary. And it's like, where's your office manual? Where's your office manual? Like if you had that, once again, clear expectations, now you have something to refer it to.
1
But
year, 3 year, 5 year, right? Like time,
right, but
tenure, da da da, right? It's spelled out.
give it back to those two team members. How could you guys solve this problem? Like what do you think is fair, to where they're the ones that are problem solving it because they're more likely to agree to it. And so there are ways to think outside the box. There are ways to engage our team, to celebrate them. Maybe we're working towards taking an hour off on a Friday and all going and having an appetizer somewhere together. Like, you can start very small and work your way up there, but you have to be willing to do something different, and you have to be willing to celebrate every success along the way. You can't just focus on the negative.
No, that's good, right? And in all businesses, inside the practice or outside of, right? Celebrating the little wins allows you to see, to be grateful and, see the silver lining when things are rough or challenging.
Right.
But you know, I want to talk through a couple situations because in talking to practices or groups, there's a couple scenarios. The first, and I want to get your perspective on it. You mentioned, you know, big trips, financially rewarding your team for elevated results. I am familiar with a practice that used to give really nice financial rewards. They would either the team would go on trips or they would get bonuses at different tiers, right above. And what was happening is they had an involvement in presenting and closing the smile designs, the in-house whitening, like different types of cases. Um, and so they were incentivized on specifically on those procedures. What happened was, as the practice as time went on and they realized how much they were spending, it was putting the practice in a situation where there was not enough money for some of the things that they needed to invest in for the practice. And so, in turn, the accountant said, "Hey, we need to peel this back and change this." What happened was, because the team, some of those team members, they had a substantial reduction in their compensation with the incentives. And so he ended up losing a handful of team members after that.
Right. It's very de-incentivizing when we lose those incentives, right? But I've seen more times than I care to admit where a doctor is giving the team more than the practice has to give. So your exact scenario. So we want to know, when you come into it, that you're looking at, what is my collection point? What do I have to collect to pay all of my bills, to pay myself, to pay my associates, to put some money in savings, to put some money in a fund in case the sterilizer breaks? Like, we need to have that dollar amount every month. And then we set our goals on what's over that amount. So that's a collection based bonus. But you can work your way up to those other things. I love grab bag. So grab bag is, you look at, and we're going to produce, our goal is $9,000 a day. If we produce $9,000 a day, at the end of the day, the team gets to reach in and grab cash. There, it's some tens, some 20s, 50, maybe 100 in there. So you have a chunk of money. So worst case scenario, you're walking away with $10. Best case, you're walking away with 100. You only get a grab on the days that you're there, but we set that total goal, the $9,000, is what's our profit point. If we did that every day in the month, it would get us to our monthly goal. But we
Right,
want to
assuming the
elevate it by
standard
every month.
threshold, yeah.
So the
What
20% is what covers the cost of paying the team. So that's
okay.
a win-win, right? So we're looking at it. Maybe we
No,
start
I
with,
like it because those things are culture builders, right? Like,
right.
there's excitement around that process. It's unique to the practice. It's something that
And
the team gets to do. There's, again, sort of gamifying, let's hit this and then we get to do this. It's fun when they're going through and they're doing it, right? And
and it's instant, right? It's instant gratification for working on 5 extra phone calls to fill that appointment.
yeah, and then maybe a dinner or bowling or like an event at the end of the month after you've had so many of those. You
Right.
know, if you know,
Well,
and use your extreme case from the standpoint of expenses, right? Because we know different procedures have higher costs than others. So take you know, if it's like standard is 30%, maybe you're adding another 10% or 5%, whatever that case may be for
right.
those days that are 9,000 when you're gonna have less net margin. But with that being said, like, there's still meat on the bone to be able to do what you're talking about and be able to do something after you have a handful of consecutive days. And
I
again,
think you have,
think
yeah,
culture building, because when you do those things, the ripples are positive ripples, right? The energy is higher uh, on a for there's always a what I refer to as a burn period. Like the energy will stay positive or stay higher for a period of time after those events or after a negative event, right? There's the ripples. And so how long will it take before we can squash that and get back to
yeah.
positive or higher energy? And
It'll,
um and so you mentioned dash being the energy that you're experiencing. I'm always talking about, like, who is going to bring the energy on a daily basis, because we know some offices, right? It's not the doctor's personality to come in and be the loudest, most vocal, or the highest energy person. And so that
It doesn't
dynamic, right?
it
It can
doesn't
take
have to
some
be
time
just
to develop.
energy. Right. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be just energy. It has to be somebody who's showing up, who's holding that accountability, who is walking the talk, right? Like the office manager, whoever's our key leader, and the doctor, like they have to be on the same page and they have to. But how many doctors show up 15 minutes late to the huddle? Well, guess what? You're telling your team it doesn't matter. So
Yep.
they are part of the team. If you're calling them staff, to me, staff is an infection. Team is who we want to be. So there's many ways to create that culture. Talking about the grab bag, you don't think $10 adds up. I ended up my 1 year, I saved my grab bag money for a year, and I was able to take my daughter from Eastern Washington to Seattle to go shopping for her prom dress, buy her a prom
Wow.
dress that was her dream prom dress, because I had saved that money. Like that was huge.
I love it. I love it.
And
That's fantastic.
yeah,
Wow.
it
And that was a
it's
super special moment for you and your daughter as well as a result of that.
yeah. It's
Um,
it's taking the time to know your team. It's taking, I want you to be realistic what your profit point is, what can you afford, and set realistic goals with your team. They need to understand that the bar is going to change. Like if we hit grab bag more than 50% of the time for 3 months, we're moving that sucker up. Like we're always going to be trying to move up. But now they've got skin in the game. They are looking at that patient as their patient. It's their practice. When you you talk about a review, I used to highlight the team member's name and we'd post it on the wall in the team room, and that would kick off our huddle. Look what we get to celebrate. You guys were called out on this review. It was amazing. And then the whole room was plastered with positivity. I mean, that is
so good.
didn't
I
cost you
like it.
anything, right? Like that's
Well, and that
acknowledging the team.
that's what I mean by energy. I'm not talking about just and I mentioned the loudest, like somebody needs to have that higher energy, right? Come from the standpoint of positivity and abundance and can do and always be that person. And if it's not the inherent leader, right? The owner of the practice, then is it the office manager? Is there a clinical person that is in
Right,
that in the clinic in the back that is that? And who is that person up front that is that? And again, I think the more that you communicate as a team, the more that you get together as a team, daily huddles, team meetings, and I like team meetings whenever there is something that's really good or there's a rollout like training or an opportunity, not just monthly to review numbers.
right.
And
And
I like to have team members leading those,
yep,
at least a portion of those, instead of just the doctor or the office manager leading those. Because again, think of it as leadership development. Every time you schedule that, right? Maybe you bring lunch in or right? It's a 30, 40, 45-minute meeting, but you have a team member lead a project or an opportunity or something they had to research about the practice or that we need to implement. What you're developing a leader right there. You're giving them, like, you're expanding not only their confidence, but expanding their sense of responsibility. But you're giving them intrinsic motivation to want
right,
to do more and learn more. And that intrinsic motivation is one of those things that you light that fire and you keep stoking it, and you'll have an assistant or you'll have a hygienist or you'll have a front desk that will be on the bench to be your next manager, or maybe your next office manager when you scale and open a second office, or maybe again when you have to replace somebody. But that's so key to sustainable growth. and
right.
um
Well, and
and
think
I can't love it more because now that I understand what you mean by by dash, it's not just living your life, but it's living it from the standpoint of pure like pursuit of joy and pursuit of abundance and pursuit of happiness. Like
right,
100%. If
yeah,
if you're not doing that, then why do it, right?
right. Well, we spend more time with our coworkers than we do at home, so we
Mhm.
might as well make the most of it. What you were just talking about with the meetings, I love that. That's where we have cross training. Like how much does cross training come across as a buzzword? How the heck are they ever going to be cross trained if we don't give them that opportunity? So every meeting I and the team member would know a month in advance, you're going to have the first 20 minutes to teach us something that you wish everybody knew how to do. So I had one team member who taught the girls up front, she taught everybody how do you break down a room and set it up. We taught them how to run a credit card so they could collect for the fluoride. It's those kind of things that, often we have Susie, and Susie, the only one in the practice that knows how to do this. And then God forbid Susie's sick, what happens? And
Yep.
that's how we just build this in. This is just what we do. It's our culture. We cross train. We have that. It adds to that value. And if somebody has growth as one of their top words, they're going to feel excited. I mean, how far can a dental assistant go? But when we give them these kind of ways to shine, they feel like they're growing, even though maybe their job description hasn't changed.
I love that. I think we talked about systems and processes, right? Expectations. Build it into a calendar, right? Put it into your schedule. Block out the time a month ahead of time so that people can't schedule around those things. But
Right.
again, like if it's 30 minutes, it will pay dividends. Do it. And if you don't do it now, it's so simple to implement. And again, think positive ripples, higher energy. You know, you want your team to have like they want to approach the business from a mindset of abundance, right? Can do. We can do this, we can achieve this, we can reach this goal and be aligned to help each other do it. Then you have to invest and support that process. So um I absolutely love it. And I think that what we're talking about, Callie, it makes, you mentioned conflict, but conflict is not every practice. Conflict is key to relational growth, right? But conflict doesn't have to be screaming and yelling and discomfort. Conflict can be disagreement that results in synergy or results in a common ground or an understanding that lets you move forward as well. And that, again, when you're approaching it, no matter if something frustrated you, if you're feeling red boned and like livid, it's not the time to address it. Take a deep breath, sleep on it, come back, because again, you have to focus. You have a decision. Either you're retaining that person or it's bad enough that you have to let them go. Either way, it's not personal. It's about what went wrong or what went well, what the opportunity is. And even in letting someone go, I think it's important to coach them on how that situation could have been handled, because in their next role, if it's not with you, right, is there a learning opportunity? And then sharing how grateful for you are for all the positive things that they did or contributed for whatever period of time. Sometimes your hands are tied and it's just not going to work, right? I
There's
mean,
also the flip side too with that team member. What on an exit interview, what could where did we do things great and where could we be better? That's how we learn and
oh
grow. It's
yeah,
like you
it's
can't just
good.
take a negative review and believe it for its value. There's two sides to every story. And we want, if we're really trying to achieve this high level, we have to be willing to hear that feedback. And that is it goes back to expectations, having core values. Did they walk in those core values? Did we walk in those core values? Are we in alignment? Do we have integrity? Are we doing what we said we would do? That's, and it's effort. It is effort to do all those things. But when you have the venue, the meetings, the places to do this on a regular basis, we don't blow our top nearly as much because we know we have avenues to work through these. And when we
Yeah,
fight as a team
right.
at
It's
the office,
we're going to address this later this week, or we're going to address it, next week, where you have these three things that we have to, and tomorrow morning we'll talk about it in our meeting,
right?
right? I want you tonight to think about how could we have done that differently, and we'll address it tomorrow, right? I mean,
It's the behavior, it's not the person. It becomes an opportunity. It doesn't become a dread. And that's, team retention is super important. And it is a team sport to keep our team. And
Well, and
We have to give expectations, clarity, rewards, communication. It's all.
And I don't want that to be, missed in the episode tonight. Like what we're talking about, the reason we're talking about it is specifically to help from the standpoint of retaining people, right? Developing leaders because leadership improves retention. It increases engagement. Engagement increases retention. Like that is the process of building people. And
Yeah.
so you lead them, they then further get, again, think self-determination, intrinsic motivation, they get further engaged, and then they that's how you develop long-term retention in a practice. And every practice when it's the most profitable and the most productive offices, they might be spending a little more on the wages because they have a team that has been together, that knows the ropes, that loves working with each other, that has been there, and continues to build. I love when teams start looking at the practice from the standpoint of wellness and impact in patients' lives, as opposed to the daily grind of just, dentistry or patient care.
And that's so important. I mean, the bottom line is if your case acceptance is at 20%, that means you're only taking great care of 20% of your patients. What's happening to the other 80%? I'm not saying we have to diagnose treatment that doesn't need to be done. I'm not saying anything like that. But if we're not building relationships with our patients and getting to know them on a human level, uh, why do we expect them all to say yes? Like we have to communicate that value. We have to show that value. People feel comfortable going back somewhere because they know the predictability of the services. So there's so many things that are amazing in dentistry, and I still think it's the best industry out there. I think we still can be successful despite all the things that are going on in our world. I think it comes down to intentional communication, clarity, conversations, and passion that we're happy working together.
That's awesome. Thank you. I have absolutely thoroughly enjoyed Callie. I always enjoy talking to you, but 100%, there's so much alignment, honestly, in how we look at the business. So it's definitely been a joy. I always like to leave our episodes with, so if there's one thing you want to, whether that's a qualm or a challenge that you have, something that's in front of you in the that you're seeing in the business of dentistry that you want to approach, or something, a trend that you see that's absolutely fabulous or glorious that you'd like to shout out, how would you like to what would you like to share?
I just think I want people to know that you can affect change wherever you're at, and that it's a great world. Like we can make it great, and we deserve that happiness and peace, and so do our families.
That's awesome. So Callie, if people want to learn more about Dash Consulting, how do they find you?
Well, I am on social media. I have a website. It is dashdentalconsulting.com. My email is dashdentalconsulting@gmail. Nice and simple. And I would love to visit with anybody. I don't work with everybody. I want to know that you're willing to do something differently. And I'd love to see if we lined up.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Absolutely. I love to see your smiling face. It's been a while. So, yes, thank you. And this episode tonight was really focused on, again, the tips, tricks, insights, and maybe you'll have a cheat code from the episode tonight that will just help you level up, how you engage your team. Maybe you have that one team member, a couple team members that really need that. Reach out to Callie, or you can always reach out to me as well, the dental efficiency guy, and I can connect you with her. We both have a passion for serving the business of dentistry. Thanks so much. Have a great night, Callie.
Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate it.